For more insight into the events that gave rise to this popular movement and the subsequent chain of events, we are now being joined by a lawyer and political activist, Dele Farotimi. Welcome, Dele.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So it has been a very long year with a tribunal and back and forth, and obviously it has come to this day, and I'm just wondering how you think the events have transpired so far over the last year, especially with regards to the 545 demands that initially kick-started off this protest, the demands of the protesters on the behalf of the police and the government.
Well, let me first of all explain something. I wasn't part of the organization or planning of the protest. If anything, I was looking on skeptically from the sideline, believing that those who were engaging the system with all this 545 demand, or any sort of demand for that matter, were merely wasting their time, because I always felt that it was a waste of time protesting to a man who cannot hear what you have to say. And I'm not talking about a human being, I'm talking about a system. The Nigerian system is not designed to be responsive to the demands of those who imagine themselves to be citizens in Nigeria. So when they started the process of all these 545, Endsars, I was asking myself, how do they expect SARS to end when the system that enables SARS continues to thrive? So I wasn't particularly holding my breath, expecting that anything substantive might change as a function of the protest. But as the protest progressed and took on a life of its own, and Endsars became End Impunity, it became End Bad Governance, it became End Everything that is bad about Nigeria, and as the young people began to coalesce around each other and ignore the divisions that have always ensured that they never managed to speak with one voice, at least for years, they've been kept down and nobody could find commonalities to their afflictions to the point where they could speak with one voice. But Endsars changed that. At the point where it began to change the narrative, I became interested because I could see that the young people who were demanding an end to SARS had made the connection between the impunity that governs Nigeria and the SARS that they were protesting against. So whilst they might have started out protesting against the fruit, they soon began to realize that it was actually the tree that they needed to be worried about. So at that point, I was interested. And Nigeria reacted exactly as it is structured and wired to react. What they did in those 2 weeks of protesting, of speaking their voices, of uniting, of showing how it should be done, and it could be done with hope, what they did was that they offered hope. They sparked a passion and belief in Nigerians that they could own their country. That was what threatened the system. And that is why the system reacted the way it reacted, murderously. And then it began to deny what it did. So, but since then, the system would want us to forget. Lies have been told at different levels to kill the story. A lot of narratives have been changed. You find men whom you would ordinarily ascribe respect coming on here to come and twist the tale. But we cannot unsee what we have seen. An Instagram live feed is not something you edit. You can't hear brush history. I interacted with those who were injured. I saw persons, survivors. I spoke with one earlier today on the program. So when people begin all these lies, it doesn't matter. The point is this. The substantive issue of citizenship, which were raised and crystallized by the Endsars protest, have not been addressed. So a year from when the protests were called, the issues have remained with us. If anything, instead of admitting to what was done so that we can heal and perhaps find a different direction in which to travel, the Nigerian state has continued to lie about exactly what it did that day. Our rulers have continued
on our
to
screens, if you can
as
hear
if
me,
nothing happened. The police commission...
Dele, if you can hear me, because we have the 545 demands from those Endsars protesters on our screen, and some of them have actually been addressed? Because when you look at it, they said, of course, the release of some of arrested protesters, some actions have been taken, and also justice and compensation for families of victims. We saw some of those actions actually taken in respect to that. Then the independent body to oversee prosecution of officers within 10 days. Actions were taken in that light, and of course, psychological evaluation of the disbanded officers before redeployment. Some, not all, we've seen actions, and permit me at this point to bring in maybe Renu to help us deepen this discussion, because Renu is one of the youth representatives at the panel of inquiry, and she joins us now to interrogate a few things that went on there. Now, Renu, would you say that after a year or almost a year of sitting by this panel of inquiry, did we at least try to make a monumental move in terms of justice for people that were maimed, maligned, and probably denied justice all this while?
Thank you very much, Arash TV. I'd like to say and repeat that I left the panel back in February, so that fact is clear. Then it's funny when we talk about the 545, actually, that after a year with the threat of fresh protests, the National Economic Council issued out some recommendation, I think, a few days ago. And like Dele Farotimi said, the Nigerian state is merely reactive and not proactive. If young people did not come out on the streets, these recommendations would not have been issued. I was saying on one of my speaking engagements this morning that the Nigerian state do not see the need to improve policing systems in the country. And that is a fact. You can see that because we cannot notice any improvement in the way the Nigerian policemen handle civil relations and relationships with members of the public ever since last year. It is disgraceful. And the only instrument they are afraid of is the media, which they are trying to gag right now. It's a known fact that panels set up in the country, even before the protest, including the presidential panel, I like repeating, their recommendations are yet to see the light of the day. With the Nigerian government, let us embark on the path to policing reforms, or will it, as usual, we ignore the reports, throw them under the table, and continue to profit from the humiliation of the Nigerian citizens? What am I even saying? You were just showing reports from the live protest that is currently happening all over Lagos and even Nigeria. And we could see how Nigerian citizens are being humiliated. What is the value of the life
Renu, my
of
question to you is this.
I'm continuing. This Endsars protest started due to a wide-ranging reason. But the most encompassing fact is that people did not believe the government any longer. Now, some of these panels have offended, but did they succeed in restoring hope back? Or did they just reinforce the thoughts that justice did not get meted out to corrupt police officers in Nigeria? I'd like to say that one of the 545 was psychological evaluation for SARS officers in the country. And another one was the release of peaceful protesters all across Nigeria. Till now, over 1 year, peaceful protesters are still in jail all over the country. A 17-year-old teenager gave birth in prison a few months ago. She was just walking by the Endsars protest and she was arrested and put in jail. Going back to the psychological evaluation, now that I think about it, I said it earlier and I'm going to say it now, that we should not have asked for psychological evaluation for these disbanded SARS officers alone. We should have asked for psychological evaluation of many of our political leaders, because this is obviously
now, Renu, you seem to be moving off trajectory. I just wanted to, my own question was, are you saying that this panel of inquiry was a very expensive waste of time and resources, that it did not achieve anything?
My question is that the panels of inquiry, my answer is that the panels of inquiry do not end at the reports, do not end at the recommendation. What about the implementation? No matter how meager the amounts we are paying victims for the injustice meted out to them, but are we letting the criminals who got them in this situation in the first place, the criminals in police uniform, go with a pat on the back? The Lagos panel said that so many of the police officers that committed these crimes were actually nowhere to be found. The Nigerian police force cannot find its own police officers who got Nigerians in disastrous situations in the first place? Are we making sure that we set systems that ensure that cases of police brutality are reduced drastically? Ever since the last 1 year, can we say, if we conduct a survey, that cases of police brutality have reduced in the country? My question, are our policy makers focused on ending police brutality, or are they just setting up panels to whitewash their own image and gaslight the Nigerian citizenry?
Right.
All right, Renu, thank you for that one. Mr. Farotimi, you were talking earlier about the poisoned tree cannot bear fruit that is not poisoned. Can we get into that and discuss more solutions? A panel of inquiry has been set up. No time for implementation has actually occurred. Are there any other suggestions that you have apart from what has already been done to help this poison tree, as you explain it, from the top to the bottom?
See, my people have a proverb. I love speaking in proverbs sometimes. They speak to the abandonment of the cure for leprosy in pursuit of a cure for ringworm. Renu has made the case beautifully. Nothing has changed. Nothing of substance has changed. The panels have sat, but as she has rightly pointed out, history is beginning to appear to suggest that the panels have merely been employed as a tool to buy time and to gaslight, because the political will to do the right thing is simply not there. I have said, and I don't know if time will permit us to deal with this, but if you come before a tree and you find that the tree is bearing the kind of fruit that you do not wish to eat. Imagine that you have a mango tree and you have intolerance for mango, you prefer to have oranges. You can curse that tree, you can cast and bind and pray and fertilize it. It's not going to give you oranges. You have to cut down that tree and plant the one whose fruit you intend to eat. The problem with Nigeria is that the totality of our system is structured to have the kind of police that we have. The Nigerian police is deliberately staffed so that they are able to keep it on leash and make it complicit in the serial crimes of those who rule us. Let's be clear. The kind of images you have shown on TV today, the swagger with which Akim Odumosu is determining who is supposed to be freed from his captivity in the Black Maria, is suggestive of a fascist state. So we can sit down and speak Dogon Turenchi and try and make it seem like maybe if we had some reform or the other, something would change. You cannot reform this evil system. Nigerians have to get to the point where they place the change they want to see on the table, talk to themselves across channels, across the tribal lines, across the religious lines, mobilize themselves behind a plan. The difference between anarchy and a revolution is the presence of a plan. Anything that takes Nigeria away from its current trajectories is a revolution. Whether that be through the electoral process, if they allow that to work, or through the people organizing themselves and looking the likes of Akim Odumosu in the face and telling them that we are citizens. If we have to win the right to be citizens, we will. But we must understand that reforms are not going to do anything here. A year after the fact, the state is still denying what it has done. And it has told sufficient lies to establish the truth. And we are still talking about the right to protest 21 years after being a supposed democracy. Please. Is it
All right.
22 years?
Okay.
And we are still talking about the right to protest. Please.
Okay.
It's not to do the magic. It has to be a root and branch review of the Nigerian system.
All right. Renu, we've heard Dele articulate some of the problems, and he's spoken about the poison tree or maybe the poison chalice. If we want to begin healing, where do we start from? Because all I hear today are the problems. If we want to begin healing, it might not be monumental. It might be just a fraction, but where do we start from if we want to have a national healing take place?
Thank you very much for that question. I'd first start from the fact that the the protest, Endsars, started with young Nigerians coming out on the streets to protest police brutality, and then the shooting started. We need to start with the government reaction to the protest, because we cannot claim to build a nation where there is injustice. We cannot move on when there are people that have died and that they've not gotten any justice whatsoever. Like Dele Farotime said, the government wasn't focused on demands or creating solutions. They were only focused on how to end the protest. Before I start, the ruling class saw the protest as a threat, and evidence can be linked to what is even happening today. I don't even want to go into the 5 for 5. I'll start with what is even happening today. There's no two way about it. Now, I like asking questions when I answer my whatever you want to ask me. Now, I would like to ask, is the future still bright? From endless protests to incessant arrests to extrajudicial killings by Nigerian police, it is not rocket science to figure out that the future of the Nigerian youth is under serious threat. Just last month, because I was getting tired of the rising cases of police brutality, I started documenting cases of police brutality across the country. And according to reports that I have, not the one that I don't even have power over, the ones that I have, over 10 young Nigerians were killed in September alone in Nigeria. Our future is looking bleak thanks to a government that lacks vision and sound judgment, a government that is founded on lies and deceit. Nigeria says, young people, the children of today, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. However, we are getting killed off today. Nigerian youths want a future where we can look back and not regret living, a future that we can be proud of. However, that future is being mortgaged and sold off to the highest bidder. Our dreams are being killed and our ambitions are being squashed. The tomorrow that we have hoped for is not coming. And then under this government, we have been boxed into a place of despair. Go on social media today and see how traumatic young Nigerians are today. We are frustrated and we are tired. However, I'd like to end with this. Yes. We cannot be grateful for a democracy where lives are being lost for speaking up. You cannot ask us not to speak up when we are being killed, when we are being extorted, when we are being arrested indiscriminately. I saw CP Odumosu on TV this afternoon, gaslighting and whitewashing, the image of the Nigerian police. He cannot say that it's police officers. He doesn't know about them arresting and killing young Nigerians in Lagos and even all other police commands all over Nigeria. We will not back down from demanding for our rights and inclusion from this government. Neither are we going to stop from holding the government accountable to us. Hold on, because Nigeria is all some of us have. Nigeria is all we have, and we have a right that demand that it works for all of us, not just for the children of the rich or the politicians or the elites. Nigeria has to work for everybody. Thank you,
Renu, for that spirited, discussion. Thank you very much. But Mr. Farotime, really quickly, in the same breath. There's a saying that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and being a member of the youth, and you having been in this field for quite a while, you must have seen some things in your time that might have been reminiscent of what has happened in the past year. From your stance, how can healing come about? What are the processes and what are the steps that can be taken to bring about some kind of healing or some kind of common ground as things are still quite tense?
Let me say this. You cannot have peace without justice. No matter what you do, no matter what you try, no matter the amount of force you are able to bring to bear in seeking to enforce your will, if you do not give justice, you cannot have peace. As I speak with you this morning, a year after the killings at the Lekki toll gate, the Nigerian government continues to deny what it did there. So there is no accountability. If there is no accountability, there obviously couldn't have been any justice. So today, the all-pervasive feeling in the land is that there is no justice, and justice has not been done. That's one. The second thing that we need to also clear up is this. However brilliant a doctor might be, if he misdiagnoses a problem, it will usually end up treating the wrong disease and then probably killing the patient. The Nigerian situation is one where we have presumed a lot of things, accepted words at their face value. Nigerians have accepted at face value for a long time that we're in a democracy. We've had 22 years of telling ourselves that lie. It is time we started interrogating the content of what we call a democracy in Nigeria. We've also for a long time presumed citizenship to ourselves, but we must also now begin to interrogate the question, are we truly citizens? To cut a long story short, I am of the firm opinion that until such a time as when Nigerians confront this system without blinking, making clear, not confronting without a plan, not confronting without understanding, confronting this system to demand equality of citizenship, demand equality under the law, demand the rule of law and accountability. We can't have peace in Nigeria without justice. And justice is impossible to administer with a system of impunity that guarantees that some people must be let go of, that guarantees that there would always be strife. So without justice, you can't have peace. And you cannot have justice within this system of impunity. This system has to end.
All right, I want to say many thanks to you, Dele Farotimi, and not forgetting Rino Duola, and for speaking to us today on the 1-year anniversary of the Endsars protest.